We acknowledge the First Nations people as the traditional owners and sovereign custodians of the land on which we work and live. We recognise their continuing connection to country and their respective nations across this continent and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We also celebrate the unique and inspiring creativity and songlines of the world's oldest living culture and give thanks for the immeasurable influence First Nations people continue to have over the music and art we all enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Ben Graetz and I'm a proud Iwaja, Malak Malak and Bardu Island man from the Torres Straits. I'd also like to pay respects to all our elders, traditional owners on the various lands that we're coming from today. I'm coming to you on the lands from the Larrakia people and always thank them for looking after me while I'm here on country. Today we're going to be having a conversation with some of my colleagues and friends out there. Just talking really about our First Nation arts and music scene, and particularly around, working with First Nations artists, but also for us, what it means to us to have awards like the NIMA Awards, and also to be working on self-determined projects, and also how we work with our allies and our various stakeholders as well. We've got a really great collection of mobs here today to chat. And now I might hand it over to Leah to introduce herself.
Hi. I'm coming to you from Larrakia country as well. Shame we're not in the same place. But so I'm a musician. I'm a singer-songwriter. Originally, I'm from Darwin. I'm a Yerua descent on my mum's side, and I am also now working in the industry with APRA AMCOS, leading their National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Music Office, which is an Indigenous-led initiative. I also work for Sounds Australia as their First Nations producer.
Fred.
Hi, hey, I'm a Garawa and Butler man, Tongan and South Sea Islander as well, and I'm here down in Naarm on Woiwurrung country. It's maybe a Wurundjeri mob. Yeah, I'm down here in north of Melbourne, north of Naarm, and I've been in the music industry for many years. I started 1996, 97. Started performing original music and started the first Indigenous record label up in Queensland back in the day, Impossible Odds Records. And since then, I've performed all around the world with the likes of Black Armband and with my own music. And working in the arts, performing arts, and currently I'm working at Monash University working on a language preservation program, language revitalization program, / animation, 3D animation program. But still got my fingers in the industry there, in little bits and pieces. Yeah.
Thanks, Fred. Arian?
Hi, my name is Arian Pearson. I come from northeast Arnhem Land, a place called Yirrkala. So I come from a sort of long line of music in Yorta Indie, and growing up listening to Yorta Indie and Dr. G and a lot of others. So that's how I got into music. I'm now currently running a small studio, a place called Mulka Project, and it's an archive place, and it's also an art center. So I work there as in developing and do a lot of production work. I also work alongside with Cotton On Foundation, and I help them do development work for workshopping with kids and skills development and music development. And I also have mentored a lot of artists growing up as well. So getting a Unipingu and Dakambao Unipingu and some others. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to say this in a really nice way, but we've all been working for a very long time in our field and in the creative sector, and particularly for you three in music. I forgot to mention as well as that I am the current creative director for the National Indigenous Music Awards. So I've been a part of that for the last 2 years, and have also been a part of the awards in many different ways for many years as a participant, as an MC, and also as a creative director. But I'm really interested to hear that we have been working in this sector for a very long time. What are some of the I suppose the positive things that we've seen over that time, and then also some of the challenges during that time as well, as you as an artist, but also as a producer or working in various formats. What's some of the things as a First Nations person? Yeah, the positive things you've seen and maybe some of the challenges. Anyone can jump in.
Leah.
Don't be ashamed.
Don't mind. Well, I think it's a very different space in 2021 going into 2022 than it certainly was 10 years ago. And then I imagine that space was very different to those that went before, So I guess there's a progression there, but each evolution has its challenges. We're seeing more representation and more artists breaking through to, I guess, mainstream than we have before. But once again, there's still not the same presence across the entire kind of music sector of Indigenous people kind of leading in other areas of the industry or being employed in that sector. So those pathways are still being defined, I would say.
And what are some of those roles or some of those areas?
Like, I guess, when you think label land, you think publishing, you think agents, you think management, across all of those arms of the industry, we're starting to see more First Nations managers. We're starting to see people setting up their own independent labels and in very, very different models, which is really exciting, from whether or not they're working with the majors or whether or not they're like really they're creating and delivering and releasing content and not actually realizing that they're operating label services. Like, people are they're skilled within their regions, and they're doing it and they're getting their content out there. We're seeing, I guess it's from where I sit wearing my kind of Natsumo hat, I'm seeing a lot more people kind of working their way in to find a pathway, but still that lack of representation across the commercial side of it, really. I'd love to know more about, Fred and Arian's experience as well. So.
I was going to jump to Fred, sorry, and just ask about, because you do have your own label, which you've had for many years, and so have you seen that? Have you seen that kind of that shift? And has there been that support? I can imagine that when you started, there was probably not a lot of support.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. It's been really. It was. I feel like at the start, when I started, it was like sort of like banging your head on a brick wall, and the music industry is only a sort of a macro or micro version of the Australian psyche in general, the general psyche of the whole country. So what you see in the music industry is reflected in a smaller way, but it's a reflection of what's happening in society in general. And I think when I started out of music, particularly, it was hip hop. So I remember 2007 even, it was 2007, and shopping around this EP that eventually got picked up dual rotation on Triple J, but shopping it around to labels, and they were like, "Oh, Indigenous hip hop? What do you mean? There's Aussie hip hop, bro. What is this? And so trying to explain to them, saying it's the same stuff, bro. I'm just talking about what's happened, specific to my community. oh, so you're making music for your own like communities. I'm like, no, it's a narrative that the whole country needs to hear. And it just didn't, it was just like I feel like, yeah, it just was like smacking your head on a brick wall and just going and wanting some change, and then slowly finding, people who are advocates and non-Indigenous people that are supporters, and being able to not so much not even having to work with them, but for them to become what do they call it when they help boost your signal boosters? So just signal boosting your message and your music until suddenly it starts to happen and the ball starts to roll and you can start to tour. It was crazy too, like touring, and there were a number of shows where we'd sell out, and it'd be sell out a show. You're doing regional stuff, and the pub owner or the club owner didn't like the crowd because it was all blackfellas. No violence, nothing. Just blackfellas having a good time, listening to this music, sometimes highly politically charged, which is always, nearly always how it is half the time with blackfellas. And they just found it offensive for some reason and made thousands of dollars, and then you'd never get paid, So there was all that sort of thing. And I don't know if that still happens. It'd be interesting to talk to some of the younger crew now.
I was going to say, is it still happening? You know what I mean? Like, is that,
I wouldn't want to say it. I would hope not. Like, just with that, Leah was talking about, just to go back to what Leah was talking about, how, yes, things have been changing, but there's other parts of the industry where that it still needs work, in terms of venues. And like, I remember when Nathan Lovett Murray had that label down here. Do you remember his label there? And they would come up to Queensland, and I'd say, hey, if you're going to go up to any of these towns up the East Coast, let me know, because I'll let you know where the black friendly clubs and pubs are, where they're going to, not give you a hard time or anything like that. Sort of give you a bit of local knowledge when you're on your way up. So, and that's how it sort of worked. But now it's crazy to see the music pushing into the mainstream, and I feel like that freedom of expression, that's the biggest thing. Like in many other ways in society, our voices are suppressed, but in music and the arts, we have the ability to sing as loudly as we can and tell that story, and for it to be accepted and to listen and to be listened to, not only listened to, but heard, and then some sort of narrative between the two parts of Australia, so-called Australia, coming together and having a bit of a dialogue and a bit of a talk about it.
Definitely. And Arian, I'd love to hear your perspective on this, particularly around working at Mulca, because, for a very long time, you have been a part of this merging of the two cultures, and particularly like you spoke about with Yothu Yindi, who have been around, for many, many years, and were really trailblazers in that way of those walking in two worlds. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience in that?
Yeah.
And Mulca,
growing up, I sort of, they were, watching North Indie, they're inspiring, they're like a super group for a lot of young people. They inspired so many people to get involved and, get their voices heard as well, and to be proud to be Indigenous person, and, and be proud to be known as an Indigenous person, and to be, it gave them inspiration to get into music and other avenues. So it wasn't just sort of a rock group; it was a movement as well. So it created a shift in Australia. The start of this shift where a lot of Indigenous peoples wanted to be heard, and they started making music, and that's when a lot of bands, you found even more bands being created, and coming together and different genres and hip hop, and sort of grew from there. And then you had these other leaders, I guess, that led the way as well in music, Rumpy and a lot of others that were instrumental in fighting for Indigenous rights and pushing, knocking on the door and saying, this is what we want, this is what we need. And having a voice, being that voice behind for Indigenous people in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's such an important point, and I know that you touched on it too a bit, Fred, about the music, our music, and what we create. Like you said, Ariane, it's a movement, and I think it's something that creates change, and something that I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it. But with the NIMA Awards, what I love is that all of the artists bring such an incredible diversity to us as First Nations people and our storytelling. But all of our songs are a message, and it's about who we are as First Nations people, and it's about our culture, and you can really feel that and hear that. And so I'd love to just get, I might go to you, Leah, about, what's some of the difference with our music, and why is it so important, our songs, our diversity of songs, of artistry, but, why is it different, and what is that difference?
Yeah, big question. But it's well, you're right. It is. It's that thing. For such a long time, I remember as an artist, your indigeneity put you into a genre, and which therefore meant that you were filtered through a certain channel, without actually taking the music for the music. Regardless of what you're playing, it's going to be, to some degree, an Indigenous story, or some degree, gosh, it's an Indigenous story, because you're writing from that perspective, whether or not you're writing, to, with, cultural, content and in it, or if you're just telling your kind of personal journey, that's the beauty of what we bring. And we bring it with us, these stories that won't necessarily make it to, a city, or to I don't want to say white, like a non-Indigenous, a Ballanda audience. They're gonna hear perspectives, and hear the vast perspectives of people's experience of being Indigenous in this country. That's why the NIMAs, I believe, is such an important thing. We're not celebrating. I mean, yes, we are celebrating those who are succeeding and doing really, really well to a degree, but it's also people that are in our communities that are succeeding, that might not necessarily get the attention from the Western kind of, the more commercial side of things. The value, I think, I still see the value being being viewed differently still by Indigenous musicians and songwriters than, say, those that are looking to put it on their radio station or their stages. I still think that the value concept there's a big gap in understanding that. So yeah, I think what we bring is that experience of going, this is the story of a band from Arnhem Land who wants to sing about, we need a treaty now, to like a kid who whose parents were part of the stolen generation and never really had to have that, never grew up with that connection, and is still navigating their way around understanding their own self and their own identity. You're hearing such a vast experience, and I think that's the beauty of these platforms, because it puts them in a place that's safe to present, because it's targeted at an audience who understands how to hear them and understands their worth.
And how has that changed? I'd love to just hear your thoughts around, I know we touched on it, around where we are now, and particularly 2021 going into 2022, where I think so much has shifted in these last 2 years. in every way, but also looking at someone like Kid Leroy, who is now a global star, where it like kind of just came out of nowhere. How where do we see ourselves going, and and being able for non-Indigenous audiences to be able to share it and be a part of what we have to offer. Without it, I don't know what I'm truly trying to say as well. But how do we do it in a way that is looking after ourselves, but also looking after each other, but also allowing us to have that space as well. Particularly when I look at someone like Kid Leroy and I go, like, I'm just so fascinated by his journey, and us as First Nations mob, we're like, how I don't even know what my response to it all is. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very fascinated. So, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about that kind of journey and where we are now, and the future of where we're really going. Big questions,
What
I know.
he's
Sorry.
doing is, yeah, but what he's doing is that level of commercial success, I guess, that we haven't really seen before. So, I mean, we have seen it in other areas, but when we think of like the success that Dr. G had, but he was front and center was him and his culture, and a lot of other bands that like there was, but this is like it's Justin Bieber land, man. Like this is a whole new pathway and opportunity for people to have these incredible careers. I'd love to know what you, Fred, Arian, what do you both think?
Kid Leroy he's like one of those diamonds in a rug where you can he worked hard to get to where he is, and that's what a lot of artists, sometimes it's difficult getting to, you want to be sort of that number one up there, but it does take time, and if you start younger, over time you get better at whatever you do, whatever your skill is. You practice every day, you be creative and work hard to get to where you want to be, but it's a working process. You have to invest a lot of your time and energy, and that's what Kid Leroy done. That's why he's where he is today, because of the work that he did to get to where he is, and he backed himself away, and he knew that he had the skills and ability to get to where he is, and that's why he's there. And I think there's a lot of missed sort of options, or missed sort of times where a lot of artists get to a certain point in their career and decide, that's I'm going to stop there, and that's sort of where they stop. When there's more artists where they just continue doing their work because they just love doing it. Some artists do it for business, some artists do it for fun. You have to try and balance both so you don't get sort of sick of doing music. But if it's going to be something you do for the rest of your life, then you must really enjoy doing what you do, or trying to help people in the industry as well. So having those skills, I think, if you have those skills, being in the industry and knowing that you can help others in the industry, I think it's really important, especially Indigenous, for our mob to support each other in that area, and to really encourage those younger artists who have the ability to get to where Kid Leroy is, that they can get to those places if they work hard at it, and they have the support team around them, and they can believe in themselves to be number one in the world, or to be whatever they want to be, whether it's in music or whatever they do. Yeah.
The belief thing's a big thing, isn't it? Like seeing him there is just that in itself is huge,
Well, if you can see it, you can be it, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely changed. I think, now that he's there, he's an Indigenous man. There's then now again, he's opened a lot of doors now for Indigenous people from Australia, rappers, connecting to that industry over there. The world's your oyster. It's not just Australia where there's music. You can get music across there. You can make it. It's possible.
And I think it must be a very different game now, Fred, isn't it? Like the hustle that we used to do, or you used to do. I think is very different now.
CDs, merch, wristbands, t-shirts, singlets, hoodies, getting it all done yourself, touring around, doing your own booking, doing everything like that. It's crazy. I think for me, like I agree with what Leah and Arian was saying, and also too, I think technology, with the advances in technology, like the far out, the stuff you can do, in your own room, and the sound quality is insane. And you can, everything that you can get in a studio, you can get it at home. You can have a full setup for maybe half the a third of the price, and be able to produce, and not even that, just being able to Dropbox produces, you mix your recordings, and they mix, and you get it mastered, and then it's Dropbox back to you, and the artwork's done remotely, everything. It's been really, the advances in technology has been really encouraging to see, and how much blackfellas in the music industry have just snatched it up and are using it, and adapted just like everybody else. I think, I don't know, I feel like a while back now, like in the last 10, 15 years, even 20 years ago, there was always a bit of a stigma around, like Yotha Yindi killed it, the Uncles and that, Dr. G killed it. But when it came to like other genres, I think people were like, well, especially when Yotha Yindi was killing it, other genres sort of got overlooked, like everything else sort of got overlooked, and every now and again someone would pop out, and that fire would be there for a bit, and then it would sort of
fade away.
Fade away. But it's been amazing to watch it just grow. All the little spot fires turning into now, into a big blaze, and suddenly people are popping up from out of nowhere. Who's this fella, like you were saying, like who's this young fella, Kid Leroy? He's got a film clip with Justin Bieber. But just constant the momentum at which Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander music is moving now, and the quality of it across the board, across all levels, from community right up to mob that are signed to big labels, and everybody in between independently. I feel like it's getting to a point where it'll take another 10, 20 years, but there'll be a slow, it's like a slow burn saturation into the market, which I think is really exciting. And it's really good for young people, I think, too, young artists to have a talk to all the aunties and uncles about, like, hey, you couldn't just drop something on YouTube and have it rock out like that. You didn't have a digital distribution service that'll just get your stuff up, and then suddenly you're getting a million clicks. It used to be really, 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 really hard, and it still is hard. Like Arian was saying, like people like Kid Leroy, like it's just, you just got to hustle, and the hustle isn't always just the music. You have to know about licensing, about sync, about publishing, about publicity, about publicists. You have to know about, touring and looking after your health, everything in between. Yeah. But it's exciting. Yeah, it's exciting to watch and sort of be a part of there every now and again, just popping in and popping back out.
Did you want to say something, Leah?
I think what we're seeing. Yeah, I think there's a delay. I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah,
I know.
and now I'm a little bit behind. But I think what we're seeing is like a ripple effect of, I always say that, when you are investing in building the capacity of Indigenous people, especially, you're investing in building the community around that artist. The ripple effect around developing an Indigenous artist is huge. And, for a long time, you had to go to the East Coast to even participate in the industry, and with the advancements in technology, you kind of can live in a region and still participate in the music industry. Also, because people before us have gone to those places and brought that knowledge home. And so I see that in the work that I do, and I see the importance of like really making sure that in each region, the person who they may not necessarily be like the they may not necessarily be the person that's writing that song that's going to get on Triple J, right? But they are the community rock. They are the people
Yeah.
that are making sure that that knowledge is going across their entire community group. And by building their capacity, you're building you're building the capacity of everyone around them. And the reason we're seeing all these little spots jump up around the country is because those people have really, really made an effort to invest in their own communities. And they've done that through their own connections. Fred, I mean, look at Arian, look at the work that you guys have been doing. Like, that's because you have had years as careers as an artist, and you've been able to, use your experience to kind of prop up, and the ripple effect around you is now these younger artists like Yittinga doing really well. They just won Triple J, Unearthed of the Year. And Fred, my gosh, like, you're the most famous man in Australia. Like, everyone.
Z-grade celebrity, but you're getting there. I can walk into any mission. Everybody knows me. Everyone. I've got a bed. I'm right. I've got food. I'm good.
Yeah.
But Ariane, how's it? I know that Leah mentioned that. How's it been for you in the sense of, that kind of connection, being in community, being really remote? Because you've really Malka's really led the way with technology and that connection.
Yeah, but like I was teaching a lot of these kids when they're at school 10 years ago, and there's been a 10-year gap since then. That's a whole generation that kids have not been able to have music programs in their schools. I don't know why they stopped funding music programs in some schools, but it's a real. I think it's real disappointing, but also that generation. There could have been like maybe another Kid Leroy in that generation. Who knows? But it's really important. I think we need to go back to the roots of in the education system of really making sure kids have an opportunity to have music and be creative through music and be inspired through music and in schools as well. And that's a starting place. And for personally, it's given me like a pathway, employment opportunity for myself. It's taught me a lot of things in life, and I've really grown because of music and connecting with people and having opportunities to be, to be creative, but also work at what I want to do is as an engineer and working with production and things like that. So it's continuous, but we have to start from the bottom, from the roots, and plant those seeds, let them grow, and we have to look after them as they grow, and then let them go into the industry and I guess learn for themselves what it's like, but also teach them about hard work ethics, working hard to get to where they want to be, what they want to achieve. And that's why music's really, really important, a good incentive for a lot of communities. If there's no music in communities or those sorts of things. That's when problems happen. That's when kids start messing up, playing up. People getting locked up. Kids getting into mischief, bad things. So music's another way for them. It's another way for them to have a future, sort of something to look forward to in the future for them. Yeah.
And I think that's such a good point around training, teaching, capacity building. I'd just love to know from maybe from all of you what can we be doing better? What can we be working on? What are the gaps? What are the things that as an industry and as a sector we should be doing better?
I mean, there's a lot of things. Hey,
Oh.
yeah, go. No, there's a lot of things. Like the gaps are massive.
Fred's like, I'm ready.
How long is a piece of string? No.
Yeah,
there's,
we got how long?
I think like, I think for me,
20 minutes
over
left.
the years,
Yeah.
minutes, for
Timekeeper.
me, I think, 24, 48. No, yeah. For me, I feel like there needs to be a big push now in terms of like Indigenous managers, Indigenous publicists, Indigenous licensing agencies, or even, I remember back in the day, it was hard to, and it's changing. Like the industry's changing because there's a good few people now hitting the mainstream, blackfellas in the mainstream. There's a lot of non-Indigenous managers and publicists or what have you working in the industry, but that are non-Indigenous, that are working with blackfellas, that are switched on, so they know, they got their finger on the pulse, they know about blackfellas, they've hung out with enough blackfellas to know what's going to work for a certain style or whatever. But I feel like if there was more of a bit of a recruitment push, or like a push around, like we all did it, we've all done it in terms of getting artists up for like the last 20 years, workshopping in communities for, since we were all young, pretty much, busting music workshops and teaching kids the skills of how to perform and how to hit a stage and how to, get the best out of whatever they have and really put themselves out there. But I think now for it to go to that next level, have more representation in terms of management, black publicists, people that understand how this round peg is going to fit in this square hole, which is the industry. How does our story and our people's story, and how does it fit, and how do only we know that, you know what I mean? And it's sometimes it can be for mob to convey that message to a non-Indigenous publicist, or in terms of something getting sync, like if mob don't know that, if non-Indigenous mob aren't sure that it's there, and it's not getting the airplay of someone that's signed to a big label, then people's music can sort of just slide under the radar. But if we've got more Indigenous representation in terms of people being proactive in terms of management and publicists and even marketing, I think it will just strengthen what's happening now and really drive it to a whole nother level that we couldn't even probably imagine now. I think it will just go. There'll be a Kid Leroy every other year, like rocking it out in the States. Yeah. I don't know, that's just one thought. Yeah.
Look, from what I think at the moment is that there's a lot of band-aiding. As Arian's pointed out, that the gaps start with access to education, music education.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about, we're starting from the fact that there wasn't a music program for 10 years at a school, right? With kids that like grow up with music around them all the time. It's part of their life. It's part of their culture. It's part of their life, you know? So we're starting from that place. So the success that we're seeing, I really feel like people, that the testament to the artists that are getting to the places that they are, I feel like there's not a lot of credit given to that journey, because it really takes a lot to get to that place. I would love to see more capacity building investment in people to, if you see a gap, if there is a gap, all the streams or areas in the music industry that Fred's mentioned, there are gaps. So rather than making it about you caring, I care. It sounds really cynical, but it's like, it's not about that. It's about going, there's a real serious gap here, and a disconnect to opportunity. So if you want to be part of it, it's not, I'm going to throw money at a situation, I'm just going to employ this one person and put them here and it'll be okay. It's like, you're investing in work that needs to start at the grassroots level and go all the way up to the level of a Kid Leroy. That's the type of investment you need to put into this space. So rather than band-aiding something and trying to be everything and try and do too much, just try and do something, and do something really, really well that's going to see someone through, or see a career through, or see a point A to point B to success for an area where there's absolutely no representation whatsoever. And there are people that have this knowledge. They are located all around Australia. They have had careers as practicing musicians. They, they've had careers working in other areas. They exist, and I think that's the part. They're the people that aren't necessarily, just because you're not employed by the music sector doesn't mean you don't have the skills and the skills and the network and the insight as to how to kind of be part of that conversation on how to bridge those gaps. And as Fred was saying, like, it's not just Indigenous people do it. Like, we want to see our friends, we want to see our non-Indigenous friends working on this, because there are people that have been supporting for a really, really long time and been really wonderful at it, So, it's anyway, long-winded, but that's what I think the biggest thing is. Arian.
Did you have any? Yeah.
So the question was, again, just reflecting back, the question was, Ben?
Just, what can we be doing better?
In the industry, working together?
Yeah, the industry. Yeah.
I guess, like Leah said, being more cooperative with one another, not working. Yes, there's cooperation, but engagement with those peoples and communities that are in the industry, people like myself and Leah and Fred, maybe working, liaising with them. What's, the only way we're going to get better, I think Fred had a good point in the industry, all these different fire pots, starting all over the country, is that we have to invest some money. A lot of maybe the industry might possibly invest some money in development stuff, whether it's a platform for NIMAs, for example. It's a platform for Indigenous musicians. A lot of musicians and artists want to get to that platform first before they become more mainstream, or they want to get into the more mainstream industry. So maybe looking at investments in that area, for whether it's for the NIMAs or for the artists, so they can look forward to transition into the mainstream type industry and working with people in the industry. So it's really getting people, artists, ready for that, ready for that transition. Indigenous artists, giving them the training and knowledge before they dive in to the next level of where they want to be in the industry. Yeah.
And it's definitely, isn't it? It's definitely about that whole journey. And what I'm hearing is about, really fertilizing that whole ecology. And there's something around the entire journey, but also about, access to education and even mentoring and being around, being just feeding that our whole industry in a really, you know, authentic way. And I suppose on the back of everything you've said, with coming from an ally or a stakeholder, what can our partners, non-Indigenous partners, non-Indigenous allies, what can they be doing better as well to be supporting us? And you probably have touched on it as well, but is there anything else that for maybe a non-Indigenous, ally or, supporter out there, what can they be doing better? Like what are some of the things that, they can be working on?
Leah?
Um, look, I'm a big fan of advocacy and really making sure that you're putting, amplifying voices and people that have shown that they have really great ideas and have solutions focused ideas, and really investing in them to make mistakes as they go along. That builds their capacity and makes them better at what they do. I think the money thing is a big, the more advocacy we can get from the wider sector to identify that, our issues start from, having a musical education experience at school. Why are we spending all this money on people delivering Indigenous workshops when there's a bigger conversation at play, like, yes, these are valid and they are great for these, but they shouldn't be in replacement for kids actually having a meaningful educational experience.
Yeah.
So, which can lead, or building capacity for a teacher to constantly be there for the kids to be able to follow through their music dreams all the way, to see them through school. I think, giving that sort of support without strings attached is really, really important. Investing in something because it's a great idea, not because you necessarily want to sign the artist. Let the artist make that decision. Don't smother an artist because you think they're great and you want to be part of it. Just go, well, what's the right thing to do for the artist? And I say that for our side of the sector because these types of commercial careers are quite new. And we want to make sure that all the decisions that the artist is fully across and understands the decisions that are being made around them. So really, really making sure that if you are investing in an artist and you want that thing that makes them special, which is, them as, sincere, like the music that they create and what makes them special. If that's what you want, that's because they are Indigenous people. And what comes with that, can you hear my son going nuts? Probably.
Yeah, I was like, which child's that? Whose child's like?
And
I love it.
but
though.
yeah, yeah, well, it's suited.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's making sure that if you want that comes with all this other stuff that you need to really make sure that you're prepared to take care of and create a safe space for. Anyway, I'm going to go close that door.
Yeah. Did either Fred or Arian, do you have any thoughts about that, about non-Indigenous people that want to support? What can they do better maybe, or what can they do on top of what they're
Fred?
doing?
I just think the signal boosting, like going back to what Leah was saying, signal boosting and advocacy is a big thing. And, walking the walk. Like, so there's talking the talk, but then there's walking the walk. It's like, yeah. So I think just walking the walk and not trying to walk and lead, but walk, a couple of steps behind and be there and just support in whatever way, without thinking, oh, this, I might get this out of it. It's about, empowering our mob to be able to have those skills and those opportunities open up to be able to have a really fruitful long career in music. I think, and just quickly about something else, I never thought in my lifetime would I turn on the radio, turn on Triple J on Earth, and Double J, and hear the National Indigenous Music Awards. Like, I would never have dreamt that could happen, but it's happening. And there's how many millions of people listen to Triple J around the world. To have our voices be broadcast across the whole country simultaneously and around the world for that 2 hours was I was like, oh man, things are changing. So there's advocates, there's people advocating, and we just need more people advocating, more people being signal boosters, I think. Yeah.
Arian, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, same as Fred. Like, people, whoever's out there, love Indigenous music. It doesn't matter. Advocating for all music, right across. But pushing for the advocating for education as well. I think it's really important. Advocating for the right for music as part of their education. I think that's why, a lot of the legends would want a lot of the legends, artists that in the past would want is for people to advocate for, music in schools for Indigenous people. Yeah, and that's because that's the start. That's where it starts, and then it grows from there. So,
and I think there has been, and I don't, I think it has been something that I know, particularly in the NT, isn't it, about music in schools and bringing that back, and I think that it's so important, and nationally, I'm sure that it's a real huge issue as well. And Fred, you touched on it before, but about the excitement of the NIMAs, and I think that the growth of it as well. And I know that the idea for the NIMAs is to really build it to become a really self-determined event. And so I'd love to just hear your thoughts about the importance to you of the NIMAs. And the importance of it being, really self-determined event. So, would love to hear your thoughts about your involvement with it over the years, because I know that we've all got our own NIMA stories. But would love to kind of hear your journey with it and the importance of it, really. Arian, did you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So, since my sort of work that I've been involved in at Mulka, I was also heavily involved at Garma as well, doing the production stuff on stage and all of that. I got asked to be on the board of MusicNT. It's 2 years ago now, I think, close to 2 years. And I was asked to be an advocate for Indigenous music in the Northern Territory, and also to help with the NIMAs, sort of behind scenes on the board as well. And that's sort of I guess I said I really wanted to help my people as well. So it's a sort of, I had the opportunity there to get across my thoughts and ideas, some of my thoughts about music in the NT, and about productivity and how can we grow as a whole, as in the music industry in the Northern Territory, and connecting with other people as well. So I'm very passionate about music, passionate about industry, working with others to develop new things, new ideas, working with people like yourselves, and Ben, of course, working with you in developing new ideas and looking to the future, because the future is really looking bright at the moment. We're in a very, very good position we're here right now, and to work with others in the industry, and for them to give us the ability to talk now, even and to talk about what we think, our ideas for the future, and what we think is very critical for growth and with the development of future industry, music development, things like that. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey.
Hey,
Hey. Okay.
did you
Time's
get the
up.
thought?
Yeah.
No,
Buzz next.
I turned it off. I turned it off. I didn't even realise that bloody thing was on there. Look out.
Yeah, that's sort of that's why I decided to be on the board.
Yeah, definitely. And so, Leah, what following on from that too, why is it important to have a national event like the NIMAs?
I think it's great because it is tailored to our audiences. When you think about who's listening to Triple J, it's not necessarily always an Indigenous audience, but Nookie's out to change that. And
Nara's finest.
said that. Yeah, he's killing it.
Mayor of Nowra.
Mayor of Nara, yeah.
Mayor of Nowra is a tongue twister. Yeah, it's for our audiences, and people that aren't going to put our music in a box. It's the place where you can hear the Kid Leroy, you can hear Budjera, you can hear King Stingray, and you can hear a wonderful collaboration from a remote bush band. You can hear the Guan Baal Jari project. You can hear all of these things together, and we're not classed as a genre in this space. We're not. It's like the music isn't othered. It's coming from the authentic kind of place, and the more self-determined that we can make it, where we're seeing Ben. It's amazing to see you in the role, Romana, and the team working on the awards. Like the more that we see that, then we're also building capacity for our those that want to be producers and work in that space, because not everyone wants to be the front person. So where are we creating these opportunities for people to really lead in that space? And your experience and I mean, all three of you fellas, like your experience presenting culture, I think it just comes from that place where nothing's feeling or nothing seems like it's contrived or compromised. It's really doing, the respect is there, and the more that you're in these roles, I think the stronger our scene will be as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's about, it is very much about all of us working towards something and being passionate about it, but about ensuring that we have our self-determined events. And I know that Fred, you run multiple events and are part of multiple events and in various different forms. Why is events by us, for us important?
I think, to make it as succinct as possible, it's unfiltered, uncut, raw, black excellence. It's just fucking awesome. It's a trip. And we're all family, we're all family. Like I'll watch NIMAs or listen to NIMAs, or if I get up there, my Mimi there, or start thinking about, hey, look out, I got this connection there. One of my, mob married into that mob there. I got mob over there. A family, a bungee there. And you trip out. It's we really are family, across the whole country. And so to have this event where it's almost like a family reunion on steroids with the best of the best, deadliest music, and every sort of type of music you can, from every level where mob at, you hear it and you see it, and it's uncut. It's raw, unfiltered, uncut, black excellence. Yeah, that's what I love about it. And there's no.
I think that's the NIMAs
I think
slogan.
yeah, and I think
Write that down.
I think Leah sort of mentioned it a little bit there, but it's not an afterthought. It's here. It's for us, by us, and it's happening, and the industry are getting a glimpse in through sort of like a fishbowl, but it's us, and it's like purely us, and this is just how we are when we are, and the comedy, the sadness, the happiness, everything that you see is unfiltered. That's how we are. That's who we are as mob all around the country, as people, and yeah, it's good to see. I think it's really important in terms of a genuine voice, you know. Yeah.
And I think that's definitely something, particularly these last 2 years have been a bit challenging, but also given us a unique opportunity for the NIMAs to reach audiences that we may not have been able to reach before. But some of the biggest feedback that I get when I ask about people's, what the NIMA means to them, and they say exactly that, Fred, it's about that connection. It's about us coming together. It's about us celebrating. It's about us, sharing culture. And I think that, touch wood, 2022 will be, an incredible year where we can actually all come back together again. But before we go, I would just love to use this moment to do a bit of self-promotion. So I'd love for you to just talk about maybe what's coming up for you, or things that we need to look out for, or, things that we need to know. So I might start with you, Leah.
I can't say. I have some plans musically, but
All right,
I
secret
will
agent.
be going into 2022 running the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island Music Office. Very, very excited about the work that we're doing and some of the things that will come out of the next couple of years. Be a secret agent.
Yeah. I'm working on a duo with a mate of mine, Sam Pankhurst, and we pulled in a little string quartet from the Queensland Philharmonic Orchestra. So last year in lockdown, we were hitting this. Well, I took off from Nam. I went back up to Queensland, and it was free as a bird. So I was in the studio. We were in the studio for 7 months, and we smashed out an album there. So we're just in the middle of getting through the final mixes, and then looking to release that soon. And also just starting it's been 24 years I've been in the music industry. I've never released a solo release, and so I'm in the middle of getting that all together now. It's very exciting. I'm going to get into Sydney in January and put some touches on it there, and already hit the studio a couple of times down here in Nam in Melbourne in the last few months. And it's nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it's a big weight off my shoulders to be able to voice what I want to voice, and having grown up in sitting around studios and being involved with other people's music and being in and out of groups and stuff like that, to just go, okay, this is a Fred Leone show for once. Now this is what's going to happen. It's deadly. Yeah, it's pretty deadly. It's a trip.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
I
good.
can't wait.
Well
I guess
done,
people don't
Leah.
realize how you're you're this like, I don't know, what can't you play? You go into a studio with a friend, you're like, oh, you play that? Oh my God, I didn't even know you could do that.
Jack of all trades, master none.
One-man band.
Yeah.
And Arian, what's coming up for you?
So I've got a sort of like a 5-year plan to build more capacity in homelands. So I guess working with young youth in creating possible future music producers is an idea I've had for a long time. I know I've just managed to get together a portable studio that I can pack up and take with me. So I'll be working with possibly with the couple of the boys, the King Stingray boys in development on Homeland, working with youth, but also teaching them about how they can create their own music using the programming and recording. So one day the communities will have their own studios, and they can be free to create whatever they feel, whether it's one music producer there who wants to be a producer or wants to make music. So that's the idea I have. And like Fred was saying, these days it's so easy to put together a studio and hopefully have people behind back that and sponsor and get more all the equipment that's needed on Homeland's 4 studios. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing work. And well, thank you three for joining us today for the ARIA Week 2020 presented by Heaps Normal, MusicNT and the NIMAs. Look, it's been so inspiring being here in this Brady Bunch box with you all. But you know, thank you as well for all the work that you have done over the years, because you have been a true inspiration to all of us. And the work doesn't go unnoticed. But thank you once again, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
See you guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.